Well, the latest ANC-NEC meeting was meant to have wrapped up last night, but it did not. It will now continue tonight. Let's speak to political analyst Ongama Mtika, joining us live. So, Ongama, it looks like, according to weekend reports, that it was a heated meeting, and the step-aside issue is something the ANC can't really agree on.
Well, Shahan, if the reports that the decision had already been made, that those facing criminal charges should be given a 7-day ultimatum, then what it means is that it's a shifting of a tectonic plate in the story of institution building by the Integrity Commission and the ANC, because the NEC would get to a stage where it takes such a decision. It reveals the fact that the Integrity Commission as a body is developing further as from being a toothless institution to being one that can impact even sitting powerful politicians within the party.
Yeah. So the Times Live is also reporting that Ace Magashule's supporters are apparently refusing to back down when it comes to him stepping aside. I mean, when do we get to a point where the ANC can, as a collective and a majority, say, this is our final decision? Because we've been talking about this for months now.
So the party itself, Shahan, is in a stalemate. You've got two political parties in one, and factions have become so entrenched that there is no longer a common agenda between the two factions. So one way to interpret this process of the voting or agreeing on the consequence of the Integrity Commission's recommendation, it could be that it's a matter of applying the rules and doing so in a fearless way. But another could be that this is part of, in fact, because of the centrality of this SG's office as a locus of power for political factions, it can be interpreted as a step that fundamentally weakens a political opponent, as opposed to being a process of the application of rules and consequences from processes within the party that are supposed to be impartial. But obviously, the camp that is negatively affected by this is the one that has used the SG's office as a power base, and as such, they are interpreting it as a factional agenda, as opposed to a pure application of rules and processes within the movement. And because they interpret it in that way, they are bound to refuse to accept its outcomes.
Yeah, so those policies that are supposed to actually make sure that the ANC does the right thing, it seems to be able that people are pushing them around. They try to twist and turn the policies and the actual line that needs to be followed, which is what we're seeing unfold right now.
Yeah, that's a consequence, or it's symptomatic of the fact that the ANC is largely in a stalemate, that the NEC was able to decide on the matter as it is being reported by News 24, suggests that at least as far as NEC politics are concerned, President Cyril Ramaphosa has got a good grip on power. But it doesn't take away from the fact that if you look at the wider organization and its structures, there are significant power bases that are still pro-Ace Magashule, which then suggests that this process that the party is undergoing is a necessary one, so that those people who are still, wanting to rally behind Magashule and also don't want President Cyril Ramaphosa to have a second term may get to test their real power within the organization in ways that will either have them confirm that they are gaining momentum or can gain momentum and topple him come the conference next year, or they may arrive at a decision that says they have been fundamentally crippled to the extent that there's no longer any objectives they can pursue within the party, and as such may need to go out and pursue their political aspirations outside of the party. What is not tenable, or what's untenable, is to have these factions, both of them within the ANC, and both of them still believing that they can pursue their unilateral outcome within the party.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit more about that, Ongama, specifically this re-election of President Cyril Ramaphosa within the party. He, of course, will be very careful here because he would want to be elected for a second term. How much weight does that carry when it comes to this decision around Ace Magashule?
Very interesting one, Shahan, and I don't think an easy one, too. So the president has got to contend with two issues. Those who vote at the conference of the party are much fewer than the entire membership base of the party. And the membership base of the party is much fewer compared to the electoral support of the party, the total number of people that vote for the ANC. So while the president may be tempted, pursuant to striking unity deals which secure his re-election, to strike a deal within the ANC, outside of the party, he and the ANC will be judged on the basis upon which they deliver on the promise of fighting corruption and crime. So what you then have is that a situation where unity within the party, especially a kind of unity that involves striking deals with those that are perceived to be corrupt, may be asymmetric to gaining support outside of the ANC. So that's what the president has to contend with. But you're quite right in asking the question of degree, because it's not entirely true that once he acts against Ace Magashule, that has no bearing at all in terms of whether or not he's able to secure a second term. It's been known in ANC politics that fighting against the sitting Secretary General, unless you fundamentally weaken them to the extent that they get expelled from the party, you may not be able to win. Because the Secretary General, for example, may be out in the cold, but that office itself may still take time before it can be won over to support the future aspirations of President Cyril Ramaphosa. So there's a lot of things to take into account here. It's the electoral support, which needs to see that there's action taken against those that are allegedly corrupt, and there's evidence in the public domain about them being corrupt. And then also there's the factional balance of power that still needs to be maintained or helped to shift towards the president.
Yeah, so let's talk about the elections, because that, of course, comes now before the election, or re-election, I should say, of Cyril Ramaphosa. How much consideration needs to go in there? Because we know that South Africans are not happy with the way in which the ANC is dealing with corruption.
My view is that 2021, the ANC is too late to be able to convincingly make some changes that will help sway public opinion about it towards itself. So whatever changes are going to be made now should be attempting to position the party to build from the losses that it's going to experience. And I think that those losses are actually guaranteed. Among them, it's further losses of support in major metropolitan municipalities. I doubt that that loss of support will automatically translate to a win for the opposition, because even the opposition is in tatters and is making strategic mistakes, both the EFF and the DA. So that will count to the ANC's favor, that its loss of support may not immediately translate to a consolidation of support for the opposition. But if the party wants to build, and by the way, Shahan, I think that it's going to grapple and have these things which impact negatively on its electoral performance even leading to its conference next year and after that. So my view is that the party now and those that want to protect that brand should be wanting to position themselves to rebuild significantly so that come 2029 they have a better offering to offer to South Africans. Otherwise, in the 2021 as well as 2024 elections, the odds are too high for it to overcome in order to stymie a reduction below 50%. It might just make it for 2021 in terms of a national average, but many municipalities are going to drop below 50%, especially in Gauteng, and we might see another in the Eastern Cape, which actually drops below 50%.
Interesting times. We're going to see how that ANC-NEC meeting actually ends. Thanks for your input. Appreciate it. Political analyst Ongama Mtika.